sometimes the loudest grief is for those who never asked to be seen. Those who worked in quiet corners, who never craved the spotlight but made sure it always shone brightly for others. The kind of people who hold everything together while standing just outside the frame. Nathaniel "Nate" Pelletier was one of those rare souls, and on April 11, 2025, that quiet light went out forever. Nate was only 53. He passed away suddenly at his home in Langley, British Columbia, leaving behind a sea of heartache, not just for his family and friends, but for an entire community of cast and crew from the beloved television series When He Calls the Heart. His loss is not just the absence of a man, but the sudden stillness that follows when the hum of kindness disappears from the room. It's hard to write about someone like Nate without your voice catching, because the truth is, he wasn't famous. He wasn't a lead actor or the face of a big network campaign. But to the people who knew him, he was something even more valuable. Steady, loving, reliable, a gentle rock in the often chaotic world of television. Most people didn't know Nate by name, but if you watched When Calls the Heart during its recent seasons, you might have seen him in the background, often driving a carriage or a vehicle, occasionally stepping into the shot as a taxi driver, and always there, holding things in place. From 2022 to 2024, he appeared in multiple episodes, not for attention, but because he was part of the fabric of the production. But Nate wasn't just on screen. He was deeply embedded in the daily operations behind the scenes, working in the transportation department. He made sure cast members got where they needed to go. He coordinated quietly, moved things seamlessly, solved problems before they became problems. That's what he did best. He made other people's lives easier. He didn't ask for thanks. He just showed up every day with a warm smile, a gentle word, and a heart ready to serve. People on set remember him for that, for his humility, for the way he made everyone feel safe, welcomed, and important, no matter their role. Martin Cummins, who plays Henry Gowan in the series, said it best when he wrote, "The Valley will not be the same without Nathaniel Pelletier. He was a gentle soul, and it was my honor to call him friend." There's a certain gravity to those words, not just because they came from someone who worked closely with Nate, but because they echo what so many others have said. He made the world around him better simply by being in it. Production manager Mike Magnuson also spoke about Nate's absence. "He leaves a void of spirit we will not be able to fill." And isn't that the truth? Because how do you replace someone like that? How do you measure a legacy that wasn't loud but lasted? How do you honor someone who was content to stand at the edges while holding up the entire room? You remember him. You speak his name. You write tributes like this. What mattered most to Nate wasn't the show, the job, or the recognition. It was his family. Above all, he loved his daughter, Mercedes, affectionately called Murray. She was the light of his life, his pride and joy. And if you spent more than 5 minutes with Nate, you probably heard about her. He talked about her often, beaming with pride at the woman she was becoming. Friends say that Nate's eyes would light up when he spoke about her, that she was his greatest source of happiness, his reason for staying grounded, his anchor. That bond, father and daughter, was the heart of his world. But his love didn't stop there. Nate was close to his parents, his siblings, his nephew, and his godmother. He built deep connections with friends and co-workers, and many say that just being around him felt like coming home. He was a man who loved music, who found peace in cooking, who expressed himself through poetry. His writing was personal, vulnerable, and full of soul. Just like him, in his quiet way, he was always pouring himself into something meaningful. It's often the case with deeply feeling people. They carry the world inside them quietly. Nate was one of those people. He had a poetic heart. He saw the world in texture, in rhythm, in the little things most people pass over. He wrote about love, about loss, about hope. And though many never read his words, those who did say they were touched by their simplicity and honesty. Nate didn't use poetry to impress. He used it to connect. And maybe that's the greatest gift he gave: connection. Whether through his writing, his presence, or his daily acts of kindness, Nate made people feel less alone. When someone like Nate leaves the world, what we miss first are the small things, the daily things, his early morning greetings, the way he'd offer a cup of coffee without needing to ask, the quiet encouragement he'd give to someone nervous on set, the strength he brought to every task, no matter how invisible it may have seemed. He was the first to help and the last to complain. He carried other people's burdens without ever speaking of his own. He laughed easily and listened well. And now, that silence, the space where Nate used to stand, feels impossibly wide. The cast and crew of When Calls the Heart aren't just mourning a colleague, they're mourning a friend, a part of their daily rhythm, a man who became family. Not everyone leaves behind headlines, awards, or viral moments. Some leave something far more enduring, a quiet legacy of love, patience, and service. That's what Nathaniel "Nate" Pelletier gave the world. His kindness was not performative. It was genuine, consistent, and deeply felt by those who knew him. He believed in lifting people up, in offering second chances, and in standing by those who needed a hand or a kind word. In honor of Nate's life and the values he lived by, his family has requested that donations be made to Joshua House, a Christian recovery center that helps men rebuild their lives through faith, support, support, and healing. This was a cause Nate believed in deeply, one that echoed his heart for restoration and hope. His life reminds us that kindness doesn't need applause, that love thrives in the quiet, and that those who work in silence often leave behind the loudest echoes of grace. As we try to make sense of a world without Nate Pelletier, we hold on to the memories, the quiet ones, the ones we almost miss because he never asked us to look. We remember his calm, his warmth, the way he made you feel like everything would be okay, even when it wasn't. We remember the way he worked, steady and strong, always with intention. We remember his laughter, his compassion, his open heart. We remember him not as a background figure, but as a foundational one, the kind of man who made every day better just by being in it. He was the heart behind the scenes, and now that he's gone, that heartache echoes loud. Though he's no longer with us, Nate's presence lives on. In the way his co-workers look after each other a little more closely now. In the way his daughter carries his compassion into the world. In the stories that will be told for years to come about the man who never wanted the spotlight, but who illuminated every room he entered. For the cast of When Calls the Heart, his memory will be stitched into every scene, every early morning, every shared coffee. For his family, his love will echo in old voicemails, favorite songs, and quiet moments of remembrance. For his friends, he will remain that voice of calm, always close, always encouraging. He didn't leave the world with applause, but with something far greater. Love. Love from those he worked with. Love from those who called him friend. Love from a daughter who will forever carry his light forward. Nathaniel Nate Pelletier, a devoted father, quiet artist, and loyal friend, left behind more than memories. He left behind a legacy of quiet strength, compassion, and unwavering humility. Though his work was often behind the scenes, his presence was felt in every heart he touched. His kindness lifted others, and his silent acts of service spoke louder than words. We carry forward the warmth and goodness he so generously shared.